What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is February 25th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a great day wherever you are, and as you can probably tell, I'm not back home in the US. I'm actually on the opposite end of the world in Bangkok in Thailand for Tokenomics 2.0, which is going to be up and coming in the next few days. So I'm real excited about that. And even though I'm a little bit jet lagged from the 30 hours plus worth of flying that I just took, I am definitely sure that I want to do a daily update today because we do have some news we have to talk about. Not only some positive news, which we'll get to in a little bit, but obviously the decline in price action that we saw over the past few hours, pretty sharp decline in crypto markets. And I don't want to just talk about the negative impact of it, but really talk about what we can take from it as fundamental analysis for more of the longer term trend. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. If you guys haven't seen already, over the last 24 hours, most cryptocurrencies are down in the red, many of which are down double digits, if not close to double digits in percentage points of decline. And along with that, I want to say one positive thing out of this. I understand it can seem very sharp because it was very quick and it was a pretty decent percentage decline. But bear in mind that the decline that we've seen was about a $13 to $15 billion wipe off. And though that sounds like a lot, we've also gained a decent amount in February. We're still up for the month here. So again, this is really just wiping out the gains that we saw not only over the past few hours on the 24th, but also from the 17th to the 19th. So again, not the end of the world, but it does bring up a point that I want to talk about, and we'll get to it in just a moment. And not to mention as well, another positive note, Bitcoin dominance still looking where it needs to be. Lower highs each time, continuing rise in other coin, other coin dominance here, or altcoin dominance, except for XRP and ETH, two of the large caps here, which have actually done quite well in this market. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and talk about what we need to fundamentally extract from this, guys. So you've heard me ramble on a lot about how thin volume is in this market. You've heard me talk about how I do believe we are going to see a double bottom in this market, and I think a lot of people were confident that we wouldn't see that. We were going up to 4,000, retesting the highs, and the volume was relatively strong on the buy side. It wasn't that bad, and then we get something like this, where within just an hour, 4.6 thousand Bitcoin in volume was able to weigh in this much price decline in the market. Now, this is Coinbase. You have to factor there is more Bitcoin being traded on other exchanges. I will clarify, though, for those who are saying that it takes a lot more Bitcoin than 4,000, a lot of that's arbitrage, which is following the real exchanges like Coinbase, exchanges like Gemini, Kraken, things that have actual real money moving through it. Okay, so that's an important thing to take into account. That being realized, this was not that much volume to bring down the price, guys. And it was very sudden, much like how a lot of these leaps have been in the market. And it leads me to a point that I really want to drill home, and this is why we're not going to see a Bitcoin ETF for a very long time. Take that from me, who's been a proponent of a Bitcoin ETF since all the way back during, I've been a proponent of it for a while, but I was someone talking about my confidence for one back in the summer of 2018. Now, I'm going to explain why we're not going to see one, and a lot of it has to do with the proof of the pudding right here on the chart. But I'm also going to talk about how an ETF as well. It's kind of ironic because an ETF would actually help mitigate a lot of these issues. So let's go ahead and get as to the reasons as to why we're not going to see it and why we're going to see a continuation of this until really we start getting some catalyst in this market. So the reason that we're not going to get an ETF is because the SEC and a variety of major institutional regulators see this, and they see that this is way too volatile. They know that this is spawned from lack of liquidity, but along with that, the fact that Bitcoin is traded 24/7 and isn't tied into the frameworks of their institutions. What do I mean by that? That these exchanges operate across the world, and even though they do operate under the supervision of regulators, that there are always ways at the moment, because crypto is so volatile and traded amongst so many different exchanges and platforms, that they can't keep up. They can't get a control over all of this. And because of it, it can be extremely volatile, right? If one or two exchanges is letting people go ahead and do something like wash trading, or they're allowing people to do this kind of price manipulation of such thin capital, you're going to continue seeing this, and it is going to ruin a lot of retail investors who get it on an ETF. This is why regulators are so hawkish on it, right? We have to think not in such a black and white way. Hear the other side out and realize that this is why an ETF isn't being created. Now, could we make the argument as well that there are a lot of volatile markets that shouldn't have ETFs, especially some of the triple leveraged ETFs that I probably brought up in my Medium article, which I'll leave linked down below if you guys want to see my rationale for a Bitcoin ETF? Yes. In this case, it's just as risky, if not less risky, than some of those ETFs. But that's, I think, the rationale as to why we're not going to see one. Really, at the end of the day, they're the reason. They're going to be the determiners as to whether or not an ETF gets passed. Now, my point as well in the past, oh god, TradingView is giving me crap because I haven't, haven't logged into my TradingView here on my Mac. The point I want to make here is that overall, an ETF would help resolve these. And I correlated two things that the SEC was most concerned about, which was price manipulation and lack of liquidity. And those kind of go hand in hand. We don't have volume in this market. Until we get volume, we are going to continue to have manipulation. Well, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if we could take a lot of the Bitcoin that is owned by Bitcoin whales abroad and put that into an ETF owned by millions of people? And not to mention, take away a lot of that Bitcoin, which could be used to dump on the open exchanges that are already suffering from low liquidity. Not to mention, bring a lot of excitement into trading cryptocurrencies on these retail exchanges because an ETF is coming, right? So that'd fix a lot of the issues. But they're not going to do that. They're going to wait until something else serves as a catalyst to bring this market back up, to bring more liquidity, and more than anything, try to find a way in which someone could supposedly have almost synthetic ownership of Bitcoin through an ETF and not have to deal with the volatility of most exchanges. So that's why we're not going to see it. Now, I know this is really, I think a lot more people are concerned about my opinions on this price action. Guys, I've said it before, and I can tell you, I've talked to a variety of people. The best analysis I can get is that this is a few people trading on the spot market that's suffering from low liquidity, and they're putting the majority of their capital on leveraged exchanges like BitMEX, right? If I can go take one Bitcoin and put it on 20 times margin short on the market and use one Bitcoin to bring an effect on price downward, and of course you want to translate this probably to 1,000 Bitcoin, then I'm going to be able to make 20 times what I could potentially make on a normal short in this case. If I have enough to trade spot market and push price, cause slippage in the order book, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it on BitMEX, right? That's how a whale thinks. Now, that's the major thing I can take away from this, guys. An analysis in the sense of where I see things going, I think we've made pretty clear resistance at 4,000, and we need to come back down slowly but surely and come down and retest around 3,000. That's the best thing I can get out of this. I've been talking about it since we were back here. I think we need to see a retest down there. It was good to see this kind of positive price action, but we aren't even getting volume that matches the previous rallies, guys. This is giving us the same warning signs that we saw from the rally every time at 6,000 to higher prices. Well, actually really lower highs in this case, but you get my point here. So I'd like to know what you all think about it in the comments. Even if you disagree, leave a comment down below and provide some reasoning as to why you think that way. I understand it's very difficult to go through these times, guys. I know people are very saddened by the fact that this market is pushing sideways at the moment, not really making any serious direction. But right now is a time to reflect, to do some real fundamental research, to look at some of the cool projects that are getting built, and to prepare for that next market cycle, to not fight the trend at the moment. So that's my major key part of advice, guys. But I'll be here no matter what. I'll be here to track the market with you and also be here to track all the cool, exciting things that are still going on. Speaking of some of the cool things that are going on, let's go ahead and talk about two big pieces of articles and news in the crypto space. Speaking of Thailand, where I'm at right now, Thailand has just greenlit an issuance of security tokens, or blockchain securities in this case, on one of the major exchanges in Thailand. So this basically, the Thai government or the SEC version of Thailand, every government usually has their own securities regulator. A lot of them follow the wing of the SEC, or at least the viewpoints of the SEC. Basically, the Thai SEC has allowed for people to trade securities or to tokenize securities for different cryptocurrencies in this case. So basically, I could go out and do a security token on property, on equity in a company, things of that sort. And I really think this is exciting. It's interesting. Thailand, I know this from the people I'm going to meet in Bangkok and some of them who originate in Chiang Mai in Thailand. There's a very good little tech hub here in Thailand. They're pretty forward thinking. And I will say that I'm excited to see what they're able to do with this, and to see where it goes in that case. Now, we don't have too much details to work with, at least from the article, and what you can see. They do have a little bit of extra details you guys can dive into, but for the most part, we'll have to see if we can get some more developments from this, and whether or not it's really a big deal, and if we see any securities actually being launched on it. I think it's a great first step, though, and again, it proves that both South America and Southeast Asia, in my opinion at least, are going to be the leading frontiers of not only broad cryptocurrency adoption, but also more specifically the thing I care about, peer-to-peer digital currencies and peer-to-peer digital cash. So another thing as well that I wanted to talk about, this was trending for a few days ago, was Andreas Antonopoulos' warnings to the Ethereum community about infighting. And I want to actually take a few looks at his points, because I actually believe this could be going to the broader sense of the crypto community. I think he was probably referring to specific conversations in Ethereum or maybe some certain debates going on. I know there's a lot of confusion and misdirection with Ethereum right now as to where the project wants to go, but I think that's with pretty much anything in crypto. But let's go ahead and read through some of his points here. So as you all know, Andreas is someone who's written Mastering Bitcoin and Mastering Ethereum, two wonderful selling books in the crypto space, and I've read The Internet of Money in this case, which is his first book, and I've read partial amounts of Mastering Bitcoin, haven't gotten to finish it, but I recommend you guys read the books because I know Andreas is a quality author from the previous work that I've read. He said, "Don't give yourself the power to stop unstoppable code. Embrace the fact that what we're doing is important and requires courage," he said on stage. I'll go ahead and read through some of these quotes and kind of tailor it all together. "Be careful of fragmentation. When things get difficult, people become more insular in their thinking, and they start magnifying differences instead of focusing on commonalities. When things are easy, it's easy to get along. When things are hard, that's when we need to stop and remember that things we share, think about the things that we share rather than the things that divide us." These three quotes right here speak to everything that the crypto space is struggling with right now, guys. The amount of infighting that I've seen, the amount of, I would say, kind of like slander and kind of rude-hearted mentality that I've seen in this space grow with the bear market, it's something that doesn't shock me because I've seen it in previous markets before. As I've told you guys, I've traded in equities before, I've traded commodities. I've seen this kind of anger brew before. And I think it's because people believe that one another are the issue, that X person is the issue or X crypto or startup is the issue. When in reality, I think it is simply that many of us are just upset at the market where it is right now. Now, I'm not blaming it on any specific person, guys. I can tell you all, I'm definitely not in the best mood of the world with the market being where it is, but I understand how to approach this in a rational sense, and I'm not going to let it stop me from A, creating content on this channel, and B, continuing to add my contributions to this space, continuing to develop and share ideas with other people, and continue to build out what we're creating here, because if we stop, the code isn't going to be stopped. We're stopping in this case. We're setting our own barriers in this case. And that's exactly what Andreas is saying. The code itself is only going to be created unless we continue to develop it. And so I think that's a big point here. I think Andreas made it a point a long time ago, and I don't want to misquote him here. But I do remember in a speech he was referring to the fact that the biggest thing that banks the biggest thing that banks are scared about or worried about is that people are starting to realize the power of cryptocurrencies. He said they're very worried. I remember, I think this was actually a speech captioned from the VPro documentary, The Bitcoin Gospel. It was back in 2015, the first thing I really saw that kind of helped me understand what Bitcoin was. And he was explaining how they're very worried about this. They're very worried that we could potentially be building something really great here that separates us from the need of third parties in a lot of cases, or at least the power to create money. And that is essential here. So bravo to Andreas taking his public image and spreading it out there with a positive word of stopping the infighting, stopping the accusations, and actually working together. I think that's the best thing we can do in this space right now. But I'd like to know what you all think down below. And also, what are you guys doing right now outside of investing and speculating on crypto? What are you guys doing right now to continue bulking up on your info and crypto, helping to spread the word out there? Are you adding any contributions, or any of you developers out there? Would love to hear down in the comments down below. But until the next video, everyone, I hope you all are hanging in there. Hope you all are having a wonderful day, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Stay tuned.